The explosion lit up the void of space like a dying star. Commander Velrax watched from his flagship as another one of his cruisers broke apart under enemy fire. Metal twisted and burned. Escape pods scattered in every direction. He did not flinch. He had seen this too many times before. 300 years. That was how long the Velthar Empire had been fighting the Krinath. 3 centuries of death and destruction. Velrax could not remember a time without war. His grandfather had fought in this same conflict. His father had died in it. Now it was his turn to command the fleet. "Return fire on their left flank," Velrax ordered. His voice was cold and steady. "Target their command carrier." Across the battlefield, High Admiral Kryn watched the same scene from his own ship. He saw the Velthar cruiser explode. He felt nothing. Another enemy vessel destroyed. Good. His people had lost thousands of ships over the centuries. Millions of lives gone. The Velthar deserved every bit of suffering they received. "Press the attack," Kryn commanded. "Do not let them regroup." The 2 fleets clashed again. Weapons fire crossed the empty space between them. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Energy beams cut through hull plating. Ships on both sides burned and died. The star system they fought over was rich in rare metals and energy crystals. Both empires needed these resources. Neither would back down. On Earth, Captain D1 stood in the war room deep beneath the planetary defense headquarters. He watched the battle on the main display. The images came from stealth probes Earth had placed throughout the galaxy. For 2 years, humanity had observed this endless war. "Another 12 ships destroyed in the last hour," said Jaiwu, standing beside him. She was his chief tactical officer. Her eyes never left the screen. "Both sides are taking heavy casualties." "How many dead?" D1 asked quietly. "Estimates put it at 40,000 in today's engagement alone," Jaiwu replied. "The total death count from this war is over 800 million. D1 closed his eyes for a moment. 800 million lives. The number was too large to truly understand. But he tried anyway. Each one had been a person. Each had a family, dreams, hopes, all gone because 2 empires refused to stop fighting. "The Galactic Council tried to negotiate peace again last month," said Hana, the ship's medical officer and lead diplomat. She had joined them in the war room. Both sides rejected the proposal within hours. "They do not want peace," D1 said. "They want victory. They have been fighting so long that they have forgotten why the war started." "The original dispute was over mining rights," Jaiwu said. She pulled up old records on a side display. A Velthar exploration team and a Krinath colony ship both claimed the same asteroid field. There was a misunderstanding about who arrived first. Shots were fired. The conflict spread from there. D1 stared at the screen. 800 million dead, all because of a misunderstanding about an asteroid field that was eventually destroyed in the fighting anyway. "Command has made their decision," Hana said softly. "We have our orders." D1 nodded. He had expected this. Earth had stayed out of galactic politics for decades. Humanity preferred to watch and learn, but this war threatened to spread. Other species were choosing sides. The entire galaxy risked being pulled into the conflict. "We leave in 6 hours," D1 said. "Prepare the Defiant Hope." Jaiwu looked at him with worry in her eyes. "1 ship, Captain. We are sending 1 ship to stop a war that has lasted 3 centuries." "1 ship is all we need," D1 replied. News of Earth's decision reached the warring fleets within days. A human vessel was coming to intervene. Both Velrax and Kryn received the message at almost the same time. Velrax read the transmission twice. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. "The humans, the primitives from that backwater world," he turned to his bridge crew. "They think they can stop this war with 1 ship." His officers laughed with him. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as a young species. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. Their technology was considered crude. Their military was small. What could they possibly do against two of the most powerful empires in the galaxy? Should we warn them away, Commander? His first officer asked. Let them come, Velrax said with a sneer. Let them see what real war looks like. Perhaps we will give them a demonstration they will never forget. On the Kryneth flagship, High Admiral Kryn had a similar reaction. He stood before the large viewport, watching his fleet maneuver into attack formation. The human message still glowed on his personal display. Earth, he said slowly, the planet of 1,000,000 wars. They nearly destroyed themselves 6 times before they learned peace, and now they think they can teach us. His second-in-command shifted uncomfortably. Sir, our intelligence reports suggest we should not underestimate them. Earth has been very quiet for the past 50 years. We do not know what they have been developing. Kryn waved his hand dismissively. They are children playing at being adults. One ship. They send one ship. If it gets in our way, we will destroy it like any other obstacle. But that night, alone in his quarters, Kryn reviewed Earth's history again. The files showed a species that had fought wars more brutal than anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. They had created weapons that could kill millions in seconds. They had poisoned their own world, split the atom, touched the sun's power. Then suddenly they had stopped. Earth had achieved global peace 53 years ago. Since then they had been silent, building, watching, learning from the rest of the galaxy. What had they learned? What had they built? Kryn pushed the thoughts aside. One ship, just one ship, it changed nothing. The battle continued. More ships died. More lives were lost. Neither commander was willing to retreat. They had fought over this system for 12 years already. Whoever claimed it would gain a strategic advantage. The war might finally tip in their favor. In the depths of space, the Defiant Hope accelerated toward the war zone. The ship was not large by galactic standards. It carried a crew of only 300. To outside observers, it looked almost plain, simple, unimpressive. D1 sat in the captain's chair on the bridge. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew what they were about to do. They all knew the risk. How long until we reach the system? D1 asked. 4 hours, Captain, the navigation officer replied. 4 hours. In 4 hours, they would arrive at a battlefield where thousands of ships were trying to kill each other. They would fly directly into the crossfire. One human ship against 2 massive fleets. D1 looked at the viewscreen. Stars streaked past as they traveled faster than light. Soon those stars would be replaced by weapons fire and exploding ships. Jai Wu, he said quietly, are the defensive systems ready? Yes, Captain, she replied. All systems are operating at peak efficiency. And the weapons? Armed and ready, though I hope we do not need to use them. So do I, D1 said. So do I. The Defiant Hope raced toward the war. Behind them, Earth waited. Ahead of them, 2 empires fought and died. And somewhere in between, the hope for peace still survived. If only they could reach it in time. The Defiant Hope dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly between the 2 warring fleets. On both sides, thousands of ships were locked in combat. Weapons fire crossed the void in streams of deadly light. The human vessel appeared in the middle of it all, alone and seemingly fragile. On the Velthar flagship, alarms blared across the bridge. Commander, unknown vessel has entered the battlefield, an officer reported. It appeared directly in the center of our formation. Velrax moved to his command display. The human ship showed up as a single dot surrounded by hundreds of his vessels and thousands of Kryneth ships beyond. So the humans actually came, he said. How foolish. Should we warn them to leave, sir? Why bother? If they are stupid enough to enter a war zone, they deserve what happens to them. Velrax returned to his chair. Continue the attack. Ignore the human vessel unless it interferes. Across the battlefield, High Admiral Kryn received similar reports. He studied the display showing the Defiant Hope's position. The ship sat motionless in the empty space between the two fleets. "What are they doing?" Kryn muttered. "They are not moving, not taking defensive positions, just sitting there." "Perhaps their engines failed," suggested his tactical officer. "No," Kryn said slowly. "They came here deliberately, but why park themselves in the most dangerous spot in the entire system?" He would soon find out. On the bridge of the Defiant Hope, D1 opened communications on all frequencies. His message would reach every ship in both fleets. "This is Captain D1 of Earth vessel Defiant Hope. I am requesting an immediate ceasefire. Too many have died already. This war must end." Silence followed. Then on both flagships the commanders heard the message and laughed. "The human requests a ceasefire," Velrax announced to his bridge crew. They joined in his laughter. "One small ship orders two empires to stop fighting. The arrogance is almost admirable." "Ignore the transmission," Velrax commanded. "All ships continue firing." Kryn also dismissed the human message. "They will learn soon enough that words mean nothing here. Only strength matters." The battle raged on. Ships from both sides exchanged fire around the Defiant Hope. Energy weapons and missiles filled the space near the human vessel. Some shots came dangerously close. "Captain, we are being targeted," Jaiwu reported from her station. "Multiple missile locks from both fleets." D1 nodded calmly. "I see them. Hold position." "Sir, 30 missiles incoming from the Velthar fleet. 60 more from the Krynath. Impact in 40 seconds." The bridge crew tensed. Nearly 100 missiles were racing toward them. Any one of them could destroy their ship. Together, they would vaporize the Defiant Hope completely. "Captain," Jaiwu's voice held a question. "Hold position," D1 repeated. "Do not move, do not return fire." The missiles came closer. 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 5. "Shields," D1 said quietly. Jaiwu activated the defensive systems. The Defiant Hope suddenly blazed with light. A field of energy surrounded the ship, forming a sphere of pure force. The missiles hit the shield and exploded harmlessly. The explosions were enormous. They lit up the battlefield like small suns. But when the light faded, the human ship remained exactly where it had been, undamaged, unmoved. On the Velthar flagship, Velrax stood up from his chair. "What was that?" "Sir, their defensive shields absorbed the entire missile salvo. Our weapons had no effect." "No effect?" Velrax moved to the tactical display. "That is impossible. Those missiles carry enough explosive power to destroy a heavy cruiser. Check your instruments." "Instruments are functioning correctly, Commander. The human ship took no damage." Velrax stared at the display. The small dot representing the Defiant Hope still sat in the same position. For the first time in many years, he felt something unfamiliar: uncertainty. Kryn experienced the same shock. "Our missiles did nothing." "Correct, Admiral. Their shields are unlike anything we have encountered before." "Then we use stronger weapons," Kryn ordered. "All ships target the human vessel. Fire energy cannons." Both fleets turned their attention to the Defiant Hope. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across space. Hundreds of shots hit the human ship's shields. The defensive field glowed bright white under the assault. The power being directed at the Defiant Hope would have destroyed a dozen warships. But still the shield held. The human vessel did not move, did not fire back. It simply sat there and absorbed everything they threw at it. "Impossible," Velrax whispered. He had fought in this war for decades. He had seen every type of ship and weapon the galaxy had to offer. Nothing had shields this strong. Nothing. "Commander, even our most powerful weapons are having no effect," his weapons officer reported. "The human shields are not even weakening." "Keep firing," Velrax ordered, but his voice lacked confidence. For 3 hours, both fleets concentrated their fire on the Defiant Hope. They used every weapon they had: missiles, energy beams, plasma cannons, kinetic rounds. Nothing worked. The human ship absorbed it all without taking any damage. Inside the Defiant Hope, the bridge remained calm. The shields held steady at 98% power. They had barely been tested. "Both fleets are reducing fire," Jaiwu reported. "I think they are running low on ammunition." "And they are confused," added Hana. "Intercepted communications show both commanders are demanding explanations from their science teams." D1 watched the display. The rate of fire from both fleets was decreasing. They had thrown everything at his ship for hours. Now they were starting to realize the truth. They could not hurt the Defiant Hope. "Captain, incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. "Commander Velrax wishes to speak with you." "Put him through." Velrax's face appeared on the view screen. He was tall and angular with deep-set eyes that burned with intensity. "Human," he said carefully. "What is the meaning of this?" "I came here to stop the fighting," D1 replied simply. "By parking your ship in the middle of our battle, you are either very brave or very foolish." "Perhaps both," D1 said with a slight smile. "But I am also determined. This war has gone on long enough." "You think you can stop us with one ship?" Velrax demanded. "Your shields are impressive, I will admit, but you are just one vessel. We can go around you." "You could," D1 agreed, "but you will not." "And why is that?" Before D1 could answer, another voice cut in. "I also wish to know the answer to that question." High Admiral Kryn's face appeared on a split screen. He was broader than Velrax with harder features. "Human Captain, you have made your point. Your defensive technology is advanced, but this does not concern Earth. Leave now and we will forget this happened." D1 looked at both commanders. "I will make you a deal. Stop firing at each other for 1 hour. Give me 1 hour to explain why I am here. If you do not like what I have to say, you can resume fighting." Velrax and Kryn looked at each other through their displays. Neither trusted the other, but both were curious about the human ship and its impossible shields. 1 hour, Velrax finally said. "Agreed," Kryn added. "But no tricks, human, we will be watching." Both commanders cut their transmissions. For the first time in months, the battlefield fell silent. No weapons fired. No ships exploded. The two massive fleets simply waited, watching the small human vessel between them. D1 let out a slow breath. "Jaiwu, prepare the demonstration." "Captain, are you sure about this?" "We need to show them the truth," D1 said. "They need to understand what they are dealing with. Not to threaten them, but to make them realize that continuing this war is pointless." "The weapons are ready," Jaiwu confirmed quietly. D1 opened communications again. "Commander Velrax, High Admiral Kryn, you have both spent hours trying to destroy my ship. Your weapons had no effect. You want to know why? I will show you." He paused, making sure both commanders were listening. "But first I want you to understand something. We did not come here to fight you. We did not come here to conquer. We came here to stop the dying. What you are about to see is not a threat. It is a truth. The truth about what Earth can do. The truth about what we choose not to do." On both flagships, commanders and crews watched their displays intently. The small human ship began to move, turning slowly to face an uninhabited moon at the edge of the system. "That moon is dead," D1 said. "No life, no resources you need. Watch carefully." The Defiant Hope's weapons powered up for the first time since entering the system. And in that moment, both empires would learn that humanity's restraint had been their greatest mercy. The Defiant Hope lined up its shot carefully. The uninhabited moon sat at the far edge of the system, a gray sphere of dead rock. It had no atmosphere, no life, no value to either empire. It was simply there as it had been for billions of years. On both flagships, every eye watched the displays. Commander Velrax leaned forward in his chair. High Admiral Kryn stood rigid at his command post. Their crews were silent, waiting to see what the human ship would do. "Weapons range is extreme," Jaiwu reported from her station. The moon is nearly 3 million kilometers away. Can we hit it from here? D1 asked. Yes, Captain, but it will take 17 seconds for the shot to reach the target. D1 nodded. He opened communications one more time. What you are about to see represents 3% of our actual weapons capability. 3%. We want you to understand that. Remember it. Velrax frowned. 3%, what did that mean? Fire, D1 said quietly. The Defiant Hope's main weapon discharged. There was no dramatic flash of light, no massive explosion from the ship itself. Instead, a beam of pure white energy shot from the vessel's bow. It was thin, barely visible against the darkness of space, almost delicate. The beam crossed 3 million kilometers in 17 seconds. It hit the moon dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the moon began to glow. The glow intensified, spreading across the entire surface in seconds. The dead rock turned white-hot, then yellow, then blue. The entire moon was burning. What? Velrax whispered. The moon exploded, but it was not like a normal explosion. The sphere did not break apart in chunks. Instead, it simply ceased to exist. One moment there was a moon. The next moment there was a cloud of vaporized particles spreading outward. The human weapon had not destroyed the moon. It had erased it from existence. The shockwave from the vaporization hit the nearest ships several minutes later. Vessels from both fleets rocked from the pressure wave. Alarms blared on bridges across the battlefield. The wave was not dangerous at that distance, but it was powerful enough to feel. On the Velthar flagship, Velrax stood frozen. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard his knuckles turned pale. How much energy would that require? His science officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. Her voice shook. Commander, the energy required to vaporize a moon that size. It is more power than our entire fleet generates in a year, and they did it with one shot, from extreme range, in seconds. Velrax sat down slowly. His mind raced. The Defiant Hope had absorbed hours of concentrated fire from both fleets without taking damage. That alone was terrifying. But this was something else entirely. This was power beyond anything he had imagined. And the human captain had said it was only 3% of their capability. 3%. If that was 3%, what could they do at full power? On the Krinath flagship, High Admiral Kryn stood at his viewport, staring at the space where the moon had been. His face was pale. His hands trembled slightly. Admiral, his second-in-command said carefully, the readings are confirmed. That single shot contained more destructive power than our entire weapons arsenal combined. Kryn did not respond immediately. He was doing math in his head. The Defiant Hope had been sitting between their fleets for hours. If it had fired that weapon at his fleet instead of the moon, his entire armada would be gone. Every ship, every crew member, hundreds of thousands of lives erased in seconds, and there would have been nothing he could do to stop it. The Velthar fleet would have suffered the same fate, both empires destroyed in minutes. They could have killed us all, Kryn said softly. From the moment they arrived, they could have ended this war by ending us. Yes, Admiral. But they did not. No, Admiral, they did not. Kryn turned from the viewport. For the first time in his long military career, he felt genuine fear. Not of death. He had faced death many times. This was different. This was the fear of realizing he had been completely helpless and had not even known it. D1's voice came through the communications again. Commander Velrax, High Admiral Kryn, now you understand. The Defiant Hope has enough firepower to destroy both your fleets 10 times over. We could have done so the moment we arrived. We chose not to. Why? Velrax demanded. His voice was harsh, but it held a note of desperation. Why show us this? Why reveal your capabilities? Because you needed to understand the truth, D1 replied. Not to threaten you, but to make you see reality clearly. This war cannot continue, not because you are losing, but because it is pointless. Pointless? Kryn's voice was sharp. 300 years of fighting, millions dead, you call it pointless? Yes, D1 said simply. Tell me, Admiral, do you remember why this war started? There was a long silence. Kryn frowned. The Velthar attacked our colony ship without cause. That is a lie, Velrax shouted. Your people fired first on our exploration team. Now we get to the truth, D1 said calmly. Both of you believe the other side started it. Both of you are certain you are the victims, but neither of you actually knows what really happened, do you? Neither commander answered. My officer Jaiwu will now share some information with you, D1 continued. We have spent 2 years studying this conflict. We have examined every historical record, every document, every communication from that first day, and we found something interesting. Jaiwu transmitted a data package to both flagships. On the displays, images and records appeared. They showed the asteroid field where the conflict had begun 300 years ago. A Velthar exploration team arrived first, Jaiwu explained. They found rich mineral deposits and claimed the field for your empire, Commander Velrax, but they did not post the proper claim markers because their equipment malfunctioned. She brought up more records. 2 days later, a Krynath colony ship arrived. They scanned the field and found no claim markers. According to galactic law, the field was unclaimed, so they began mining operations. When the Velthar team returned, they saw the Krynath ships and assumed they were claim jumpers. They fired warning shots. The Krynath, believing they were under unprovoked attack, fired back. Within hours, both sides had called for military support. Within weeks, it became a full war. Velrax stared at the records. Equipment malfunction. The war started because of a broken machine. Yes, Jaiwu confirmed. There was no evil intent on either side. No plot, no betrayal, just a simple misunderstanding that no one stopped to verify. That is, Kryn could not find words. 300 years of war, 800 million dead, all because of a broken marker beacon. Hana's voice joined the conversation. But that is not all we discovered. The war has continued for 3 centuries, long after the original asteroid field was destroyed, long after anyone remembered the real cause. Why? She transmitted another set of data. Because both of your empires have weapons manufacturers, shipbuilders, suppliers. These companies have made enormous profits from this war, and they have been secretly working to ensure it never ends. The data showed financial records, communication intercepts, secret meetings. These corporations have sabotaged every peace negotiation for the past century. They have funded extremist groups on both sides. They have spread propaganda. They have made sure you kept fighting because as long as you fight, they profit. Both commanders reviewed the evidence in silence. The proof was overwhelming. They had been manipulated, used. Their people had died to make a few wealthy individuals even wealthier. This cannot be true, Velrax said, but his voice lacked conviction. It is true, D1 said. You have been fighting a war that should have ended 300 years ago with a simple apology and a handshake. You have been killing each other to make someone else rich, and it stops now. You cannot simply order us to stop, Kryn protested. I am not ordering you, D1 replied. I am asking you, as one leader to others, stop the dying, sit down and talk, find a way forward that does not involve more death, because if you do not, he paused, Earth will not allow this war to continue. We have seen too much death in our own history. We will not stand by and watch it happen again. Is that a threat? Velrax asked. It is a promise, D1 said. We did not come here to conquer you. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We want peace, and we have the power to enforce it if we must, but we would much rather you choose peace yourselves. On both flagships, commanders and crews processed what they had learned. The moon was gone. vaporized by a weapon of unimaginable power. The humans could have destroyed them all but had chosen not to. The war had started over a misunderstanding and continued because of manipulation. Everything they had believed was wrong. "I need time to think," Velrex said finally. "As do I," Kryn added. "You have 1 hour," D1 told them. "Then I will ask you both to come aboard the Defiant Hope, under flag of truce, to talk, face to face. No weapons, no guards, just 3 leaders trying to find a way to end the dying." He closed the communication, leaving both commanders alone with their thoughts and their fears and their choices. The battlefield remained silent, and in that silence perhaps there was hope. Commander Velrax paced in his private quarters. The hour was almost over. Soon he would have to give his answer to the human captain, board the enemy vessel for peace talks. The idea was absurd, dangerous, possibly suicidal. Yet he found himself considering it. He pulled up the records Jaiwu had sent again. The equipment malfunction, the misunderstanding, 300 years of war over something so small, so preventable. Part of him wanted to reject it as lies, but the evidence was solid. His own historical records confirmed it once he looked past the propaganda his empire had been spreading. "Commander," his first officer stood at the door. "It is time. What are your orders?" Velrax looked at his reflection in the viewport. He was old now, scarred from decades of war, tired, so very tired. How many friends had he lost? How many good officers had died under his command? And for what? For corporate profits and old pride. "Prepare my shuttle," he said quietly. "I am going to meet the human." His first officer's eyes widened. "Sir, that is incredibly dangerous. This could be a trap." "If they wanted us dead, we would already be dead," Velrax replied. "You saw what they did to that moon. If the humans wanted to kill me, they would not need to lure me onto their ship. They could simply erase my flagship from space." The officer had no response to that. On the Kryneth flagship, High Admiral Kryn reached the same conclusion. His advisors protested. They listed all the risks, all the ways this could go wrong, but Kryn ignored them all. "The human captain was right," Kryn told them. "I have been fighting this war so long I forgot why it started. I assumed I knew the truth, but I never questioned it. I never looked at the actual evidence. I just believed what I was told and ordered my people to kill and die." He turned to face his command staff. "No more. I will not send another ship into battle without knowing the real reason, and the only way to find that reason is to talk." "But sir, the risks are acceptable," Kryn interrupted. "If I die today, at least I will die trying to end this war instead of prolonging it." Both shuttles launched at the same time. They flew slowly toward the Defiant Hope, small craft dwarfed by the massive warships surrounding them. Crews from both fleets watched nervously. Some hoped for peace. Others expected treachery. Most simply did not know what to feel. The shuttles docked with the human vessel within minutes of each other. Velrax and Kryn walked down their respective ramps into the Defiant Hope's hangar. They saw each other across the bay and froze. For a long moment, the two commanders simply stared. They had been trying to kill each other for decades. They had seen each other only in tactical displays and intelligence reports. Now they stood in the same room, breathing the same air. "Welcome aboard," said Hana, stepping between them. She wore simple diplomatic robes. Her expression was warm but serious. "I am Hana, medical officer and lead diplomat for Earth. Captain D1 is waiting for you both, if you will follow me." She led them through the ship's corridors. Both commanders had expected a military vessel, cold metal, weapons everywhere, battle-ready at all times. Instead they walked past gardens, art displays, family quarters with children's drawings on the walls. "Your ship has families aboard?" Kryn asked, surprised. "Yes," Hana replied. "Earth believes that peace starts with remembering what we fight for. Families remind us why life is precious, why ending conflict matters." Velrax touched a child's drawing as they passed. It showed a family holding hands under a blue sky. Simple, innocent. He tried to remember the last time he had seen anything like it on his own ships. He could not. They entered a conference room. Large windows showed the stars and the fleets beyond. In the center was a simple table with 3 chairs. Captain D1 stood waiting for them. Commander Velrax, High Admiral Kryn, thank you for coming, please sit. The 2 commanders hesitated, then took their seats on opposite sides of the table. D1 sat between them. Hana remained standing by the wall. I will be honest, D1 began. I do not expect you to become friends today. I do not expect you to forget 300 years of fighting in one conversation. But I do hope we can find a way to stop adding to the death count. Why does Earth care? Velrax asked bluntly. This is not your war. You could have stayed home and been safe. Because we have seen this before, D1 replied. On our own world, we fought wars that lasted generations. Wars where both sides were certain they were right, where hatred became tradition passed down from parent to child. We killed millions of our own people. We poisoned our planet. We nearly destroyed ourselves 6 different times. He pulled up images on the display behind him. Earth's history, cities in ruins, mushroom clouds, fields of graves. Both alien commanders looked at the images with growing horror. Your wars were worse than ours, Kryn said quietly. Much worse, D1 confirmed. We created weapons that could kill entire cities in seconds, diseases that could wipe out continents. We were very good at finding new ways to destroy ourselves, and we did it over and over again because we thought our reasons were good enough. Our causes were just enough. Our enemies were evil enough. But we were wrong, Hana added. Every time we were wrong. Oh, there were real grievances, real injustices, real reasons to be angry, but the killing never fixed anything. It only created more pain, more anger, more reasons for the next generation to fight. Velrax looked down at his hands. How did you stop? With great difficulty, D1 said, and only after we had no choice. Our last great war nearly killed every human on the planet. When it ended, we had to face a choice. Continue fighting and go extinct, or learn to live together. We chose to live, Hana said softly. It was not easy. People who had been enemies for generations had to sit down and talk, to forgive, to find new ways forward. Some could not do it. Some held onto their hate until they died, but enough of us tried, enough of us succeeded, and slowly over decades we built peace. That is why we are here, D1 continued. Not because we are perfect, but because we remember what it cost to learn these lessons. We remember the billions who died before we finally understood, and we do not want other species to pay the same price. Kryn looked at Velrax across the table, really looked at him perhaps for the first time. He saw an old soldier, tired, scarred, not so different from himself. I have hated you for 40 years, Kryn said slowly. You killed my brother in the Battle of Kresh. Velrax met his gaze. And you killed my son at the Siege of Velt. I have hated you just as long. They sat in silence for a moment. The weight of all that loss hung heavy in the air. But what has our hate accomplished? Velrax asked. My son is still dead, your brother is still dead, and thousands more have joined them. When does it end? When we decide to end it, D1 said. Not because we suddenly like each other, not because we forget what happened, but because we choose to stop creating more grief. Hana stepped forward and placed documents on the table. This is a proposal, a framework for peace. It includes resource-sharing agreements for the disputed territories, neutral arbitration for future conflicts, gradual demilitarization, reparations committees, everything needed to build lasting peace. But this is just a starting point, D1 added. The real peace treaty will take months, maybe years, to negotiate properly. Today, we just need to take the first step. Agree to stop fighting long enough to try. Velrax picked up the documents and began reading. Kryn did the same. As they read, both commanders found themselves surprised. The proposal was fair. It gave neither side everything they wanted, but it gave both sides something valuable. It acknowledged past wrongs without demanding impossible punishments. It focused on the future, not the past. "If I agree to this," Velrax said carefully, "some of my people will call me a traitor. The military corporations will fight against peace. There will be resistance." "Same for my empire," Kryn admitted. "Not everyone wants the war to end. Some profit from it. Others simply do not know any other way to live." "Then you will need to be strong," D1 said. "Strong enough to face your own people and tell them the truth. Strong enough to make difficult choices. Strong enough to be called a traitor by those who do not understand." "That is easier for you to say," Velrax replied. "You have the strongest ship in the galaxy backing you up." D1 smiled slightly. "Which is why Earth is offering to mediate, to provide security during negotiations, to help enforce the ceasefire against those who try to break it. You will not face this alone." Kryn put down the documents. "I need to speak with my government, get their approval." "As do I," Velrex said. "I understand," D1 replied. "Take time to consider this carefully. But while you do, I ask that you maintain the ceasefire. No more attacks, no more deaths. Give peace a chance to take root." Both commanders stood. They looked at each other again across the table. "I am willing to try," Kryn said slowly. "I am tired of sending good people to die for corporate profits." Velrax nodded. "As am I. My people deserve better than endless war." They did not shake hands. Not yet. But they nodded to each other with something that might, eventually, become respect. As they returned to their shuttles, Hana walked beside them. "You are both brave men," she told them. "Making peace takes more courage than making war." "We will see," Velrax replied. "First we must convince our empires." "Then convince them," Hana said. "Show them the evidence. Tell them the truth. Let them see that their leaders are strong enough to choose peace." The shuttles departed. The commanders returned to their flagships. And throughout both fleets, crews waited nervously for orders that would determine the fate of billions. Commander Velrax stood before the council of his empire. Dozens of faces stared at him through holographic displays. Military leaders, politicians, corporate executives, all waiting for his report. "You met with the enemy," one politician said coldly. "Explain yourself." Velrax had prepared for this. He had spent hours thinking about what to say, how to make them understand. Now he would find out if words could accomplish what weapons had failed to do. "I met with High Admiral Kryn aboard the human vessel," Velrax began, "and I learned the truth about our war, the truth that we have been hiding from ourselves for 3 centuries. He transmitted the evidence Jaiwu had provided, the equipment malfunction, the misunderstanding, the corporate manipulation. He watched the council members' faces as they reviewed the data: shock, denial, anger. "This is Kryneth propaganda," a general snapped. "Lies meant to weaken our resolve." "It is our own historical records," Velrax replied calmly. "I have verified every piece of data. The evidence is undeniable. Our war started over a simple mistake, and it has continued because weapons manufacturers have been profiting from our conflict." A corporate executive stood up. "Commander, you seem to be suggesting that honorable companies would deliberately sabotage peace efforts. That is a serious accusation." "It is a serious crime," Velrax shot back. 800 million dead so that you could sell more ships and weapons. How do you justify that?" The executive's face went pale. Others in the council began arguing, but Velrax raised his hand for silence. "I have spent 40 years fighting this war," he said. "I have lost friends, family, good soldiers who trusted me to lead them, and all this time I believed we were fighting for something noble, something worth dying for, but we were not. We were dying to make someone else rich." He looked directly at the council. "I am recommending we accept the peace proposal, Not because we are weak, not because the humans forced us, but because continuing this war serves no purpose except to add more names to the casualty lists. The humans destroyed a moon with one shot, a admiral said nervously. Are we supposed to ignore that threat? It was not a threat, Velrax replied. It was a demonstration. The humans could have destroyed both our fleets the moment they arrived. They chose not to. They chose to show restraint, to offer peace instead of demanding surrender. That shows more strength than any weapon. The council argued for hours. Some supported peace. Others demanded the war continue. But slowly, opinion shifted. The evidence was too strong, the manipulation too clear, and the threat of Earth's intervention too real to ignore. Finally, the vote came. By a narrow margin, the Velthar Council approved entering peace negotiations. On the Krinath homeworld, High Admiral Kryn faced similar resistance. His government was divided. War hawks demanded victory at any cost. Peace advocates had been silent for so long they hardly knew how to speak up. Kryn stood in the Grand Assembly Hall. I have been a soldier all my life, he told them. I have never backed down from a fight. I have never retreated when victory was possible. But this war is not winnable, not in any meaningful sense. Even if we destroy every Velthar ship, what have we gained? A pile of wreckage and millions more dead. You sound like a coward, someone shouted from the assembly. Kryn's eyes flashed with anger. I have fought in more battles than most of you have years lived. I have earned my right to speak about war. And I tell you now as a soldier that this war must end. Not because we are losing, but because we are all losing. Both empires, both peoples. We are destroying ourselves for nothing. He shared the same evidence Velrax had shown his council. The assembly reviewed it in shocked silence. If this is true, the head of government said slowly, then we have been manipulated for generations. It is true, Kryn confirmed. And the only way to stop it is to stop fighting, to sit down with the Velthar and find a real solution, not a temporary ceasefire that lasts until someone wants to start the war again, a real peace. The debate raged through the night, but in the end, exhaustion and evidence won out. The Krinath government agreed to formal peace negotiations. 3 weeks later, the treaty was signed aboard the Defiant Hope. Commander Velrax and High Admiral Kryn stood side by side as they placed their marks on the document. Cameras from across the galaxy recorded the moment. It is done, Velrax said quietly. It has begun, Kryn corrected. Peace is harder than war. It will take years to rebuild trust, to heal the wounds, to convince our people that this is real. Then we have years of work ahead of us, Velrax replied. But at least our people will be alive to see it. D1 watched from the side of the room with Hana and Jaiwu. Do you think it will last? Jaiwu asked softly. Some of it will fail, D1 admitted. There will be those who try to restart the war, extremists on both sides, but the foundation is there now. Both empires have chosen peace over profit. That is what matters. As the ceremony ended, both commanders approached the human officers. We owe you a debt, Kryn said. Without your intervention, we would still be killing each other. You owe us nothing, D1 replied. You made this choice yourselves. We simply gave you the information and the opportunity. Still, Velrax said, Earth has shown the galaxy something important today. That strength can be used for peace. That the most powerful weapon is the one you choose not to fire. Over the following months, both empires began the slow work of recovery. Ships were recalled. Weapons factories converted to peaceful production. Soldiers returned home to families they had not seen in years. Some resistance remained. A few military units on both sides refused the ceasefire and tried to continue fighting. But the Defiant Hope, along with other Earth vessels that had arrived to support the peacekeeping mission, stopped them without firing a shot. The presence of humanity's advanced technology was enough to discourage most would-be troublemakers. The corporate executives who had profited from the war faced investigation and trial. Some were convicted, others fled to neutral territory, but their influence was broken. The truth about the manipulation had destroyed their power. Velrax and Kryn became co-chairs of the Joint Reconstruction Council. It was strange at first, working together instead of fighting. They disagreed often. Old tensions flared, but they learned to talk through their differences instead of shooting through them. One day, 6 months after the treaty was signed, they stood together overlooking a joint construction project. Velthar and Kryneth workers were building a space station together, a symbol of cooperation in the system where they had fought for so long. "I still do not like you," Velrex said conversationally. Kryn laughed. "I do not like you either. You are stubborn and arrogant. You are cautious and suspicious." "Yes, but we work together anyway." "That is what peace looks like," Velrex agreed. "Not perfect harmony, just people choosing to work together despite their differences." They watched the construction continue in comfortable silence. On Earth, D1 received new orders. Other regions of the galaxy had heard about what happened. Other conflicts were brewing. Other species were requesting Earth's help. "The Defiant Hope is ready to depart," Jaiwu reported. "Where are we going?" D1 looked at the star charts showing reports of new tensions, new conflicts, new chances to stop the dying before it started. "Wherever we are needed," he said. Hana joined them on the bridge. "You know this will not always work, right? Some species will not listen. Some conflicts cannot be solved with demonstrations and diplomacy." "I know," D1 replied. "But we have to try. Every life we save matters. Every war we prevent is worth the effort." The Defiant Hope left the system where the Great War had ended. Behind them, 2 former enemies worked side by side to rebuild what they had destroyed. Ahead of them lay new challenges, new opportunities to show the galaxy that humanity had learned from its mistakes. Jaiwu looked at the viewscreen as stars stretched past. "Do you think we can really bring peace to the galaxy?" "No," D1 said honestly. "Perfect peace is impossible. There will always be conflicts, always disagreements, always someone who chooses violence over dialogue." "Then what is the point?" "The point," D1 replied, "is that we do not have to solve every problem. We just have to solve the ones we can, save the lives we can save, give peace a chance where it has none. And maybe, eventually, other species will learn what we learned, that the strongest choice is choosing not to fight." The Defiant Hope jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying Earth's message to the stars. Not a message of conquest or domination, not a message of superiority or judgment, simply a message that there was another way, that mercy was stronger than vengeance, that peace was harder than war but worth fighting for. Behind them, in the system that had seen 3 centuries of death, ships from 2 empires flew together in formation, building, healing, growing, proving that even the longest night eventually gives way to dawn. And across the galaxy, other species watched and wondered. If the Velthar and Kryneth could find peace after 300 years of war, perhaps there was hope for them too. Perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their weapons or their shields or their advanced technology. Perhaps it was simply showing everyone else that choosing peace, even when you have the power to choose war, was the truest measure of strength. The Defiant Hope sailed onward into the dark, carrying that message forward. A single ship, a small crew, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could help heal a galaxy that had forgotten how to stop fighting. Because humanity had learned one truth above all others through their own bloody history. They did not come to conquer the galaxy, they came to heal it. One world at a time, one conflict at a time, one choice at a time. And that, in the end, made all the difference.